Hey guys, welcome to the Easy Podcast. This is the first episode here. I'm Zach Abbots, and this is
Erik Thurston.
And we've been in the industry for a little while here, and we love movies. We're nerds. We are probably nerds first, probably filmmakers second. And this is our very first episode. We're going to be going over just nerdy movies and big budget movies, and every once in a while some independent movies that we might be into or might not be into. So this episode, we're talking about Marvel's 10-year anniversary.
Yes.
And they got a film festival going on right now through the IMAX program. And that's pretty cool. That's the first time I've ever seen anybody do this. But then again, I guess Marvel's the first to do a cinematic universe.
Yeah.
A little bit about us before we get into it. I've been doing this since, like 2007. I started off doing broadcast work for ESPN and Golf Channel. And then I went to Full Sail for film. And then I started working at a production house from 2010 to 2011 after I graduated there, and started working at a church after that in 2011. And now here I'm at another church in Phoenix from 2015 to now. So that's where I'm from. Erik, what about you?
Yeah, well, let's see. My journey has taken me from the Oscars starting back in 2004 and was there for 4 years, then at Fox Sports. Did a stint at Fox for 7 years, then at NFL in different types of roles. And as well as during that time, did a lot of various roles on different film crews. Everything from photo stills on set to boom op to first AC. Worked on 2 seasons of a GSN show as well as a couple of independent documentaries. And yeah, so it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, why would you lead with the Oscars? How did you even get that gig?
How did I get that gig? I was doing actually web application development and helped develop, kind of the web presence. And it was a live updated, like we were supporting the live broadcast. So when you would see the winners pop up, there's people in a back room somewhere updating that live. So
this was in 2004?
This is in 2004.
Wow, yeah. So see, 2004 seems so long ago to me for like internet life.
Yeah.
It seems, forever ago. You almost forget like the internet was around that long ago, even though it's not really that far. But because our lives have changed so much with smartphones now.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
And watching movies on your phone, I never would have even dreamed. I mean, I had dial-up in 2004 probably.
Right, yeah.
And I'm sitting there trying to get the next, movie poster to upload for, what would have been 2004, like Harry Potter or something, I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy how much that technology has changed and how really that's kind of led into a lot of how the way movies are made now. Technology has influenced those a lot. You look at some of the modern movies now using just huge gimbal systems. I mean, they have the personal gimbal system. By the way, how was my segue there? That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was smooth. Love that.
Yeah. So they have these huge gimbal systems, and they've been really made popular. Aries got the Trinity and stuff like that, and the Stabilize was used on Guardians Volume 2 quite a bit, and just really incredible the things that they're able to do in movies now. And that kind of brings us to our first movie that we want to talk about, which is Iron Man 1.
Right. So, 2008.
Yeah, 2008. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This movie came out, and little did it know it was just going to change everything.
Right.
I don't think people understand, maybe they do, but I don't think people really grasp how much this one comic book movie has changed every other movie that comes out.
For sure.
Or every other movie that doesn't come out because it's maybe not a comic book movie.
Right.
Huge landscape shift in the world. So Iron Man 1, 2008, the whole thing gets started.
Yeah. Well, I think, you bring up a great point with the technology. I think the progression of technology, especially at that time, even with After Effects and all the things that we're seeing from CGI and computing power and all that type of stuff. We were really at that time poised for this major shift in the movie industry. And I think it's because of that technology, now we can actually visually realize the things that we did in our imaginations with these comics.
And it looks realistic.
And it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, you couldn't have gotten Iron Man. It would have been a weird PVC rubber suit,
Right.
you know, and would have had some,
very
some Batman and
Batman-esque.
Robin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It had to get to a certain point, I think, where it was, I mean, it was probably doable by ILM 20 years ago, but it would have cost $1 billion.
Sure, yeah.
And the technology's really, really helped push these movies forward in a lot of ways. Because I think if the technology wasn't there, it wasn't believable to look at, you know, this god of thunder coming through the air. People wouldn't latch onto it. People wouldn't care. It would just be another Sharknado kind of looking movie,
Right,
you know,
right.
that nobody cared about. But Iron Man 1, you know, origin story.
Yep.
A little bit of history that I'm sure everybody knows about Iron Man 1. Didn't really have a script when they started it. Kind of, you know, filled in some dialogue blanks as they were going. I think they had a pretty rough outline of where they wanted to go, but they were just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. I mean,
Awesome. I love it.
yeah, and it's crazy to think that it's now this huge multi-billion-dollar franchise
Right.
that's owned by the biggest company in the world. Directed by Jon Favreau.
Yes.
He got his big break with Swingers
Yep.
back in the 90s. And then his most recent big movie that he released, I guess, would be Jungle Book, 2016.
Right. Yeah.
And he's working on Lion King now
Yeah.
for Disney. But the DP was Matthew Libatique. He is Darren Aronofsky's go-to. He's done a lot of music videos, and then his next movie that he's got coming out is A Star is Born, which is directed by Bradley Cooper and starring him and Lady Gaga.
Oh yeah.
And I actually just saw this. They released a new trailer for it a little while ago, and it looks, I mean, it's a gorgeous looking movie. You know, we're going to talk about a lot of the technical aspects of these films more so than maybe story arc or anything like that. But having Matthew Libatique doing the cinematography for this, I think it helped bring it to a whole nother level. So then the editors, which this is interesting. I don't often look up editors. I think it's just something that we kind of just expect them to be good at
Right.
what they're doing. But then I looked at the editor for Iron Man, and he went on to do a bunch of things that no one's really cared about.
Yeah. Dan Leventhal.
So I think he's one of probably the saving graces of this film. It doesn't feel like a movie that was fixed in editing, but the editing it's great. Every moment in it hits right. And I think that it's cut together with the cinematography in mind as well, because there's a lot of cinematography in this that's blocked out to where you can have a single shot for a long period of time. There's a scene in kind of middle of the movie after Tony's back, and Pepper Potts she's walking down the stairs, she's on the phone, and she's getting ready to tell him a bunch of stuff that's, you know, going on with his business. And he's sitting at the hot rod and he's like tinkering with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the blocking of it's great. She you know, Tony's on the left. She comes down the stairs on the right. She's out of focus. You see her walking, and you know she's busy. You know, you can tell already though, because she's not so out of focus that you can see she's pissed off. Like, she's just annoyed with everything that's going on. So you already tell her character mood. So
Right. Now, was that when she found all the files? Right after she found all of.
No, she's coming in with like, it's hey, you want to buy this car?
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
You want to
the
buy,
painting or whatever
yeah,
it was.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Buy it, store it.
Yes, yeah, yes. So it's that scene, but the blocking in it is great to where it can be all one take for the majority of the scene, and then it doesn't cut to another angle and another setup until Tony moves. So once Tony turns around in his little mechanic's chair, then the cut happens. And I think it's just a great movie to look at for blocking, and that's going to be a common theme of what I'm going to talk about, because I feel like the blocking in these films is just incredible. It's a movie where the directors and the DPs just sat down and they said, this is where we want these things to happen and how they want to happen. They didn't get on set and say, okay, that might be good there and or there and there. And I know a lot of that could be, well, it's CGI characters. They can go wherever they want, you know, at certain points, and sure, but the director and the DP still have a say in that.
So yeah, let's I was just thinking about people that might be listening that might not have some of the industry lingo down or understand what that is. So maybe you could just quickly tag what blocking is.
Yeah, sure. So blocking is, for the most part, it's a film term. I think they might use it in other situations too, for like dance and stuff like that. But blocking is usually when you have like an A point and a B point, and by A and B, I mean your starting point where your character comes in to the shot, and then your B point, which is your end point where that character is going to finish. And now between A and B, you might have A1, A2, A3, A4, A6, depending on how much movement there is in the scene.
Right.
So the blocking is just like how they set up the scene for which character is going to be where in the composition of the shot.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, talking about Jon Favreau, I can't get Elf out of my head.
Sure. Yeah, I forgot to mention that one.
That's a great classic. Dude.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because a lot of people maybe don't realize that Jon Favreau is a huge comedic director.
Right. Yeah.
The majority of his stuff, even his acting work, was all comedic.
Yeah.
And then for him to be hired in, I mean, it must have been a heck of a pitch meeting.
I can imagine.
For Favreau to come in and say, I want to do this, this Marvel movie. I want to do the first one.
Yeah.
But something to think about at the time, Iron Man wasn't as big as he is now.
No.
He was fourth tier character for Marvel because they sold off all the big ones.
Exactly.
In the 90s. They sold Spider-Man to Sony, and then 20th Century Fox had the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and now Disney has got another Infinity Stone by acquiring 20th Century Fox. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So it's interesting to think that they hired this comedy director to do Tony Stark, and and then with Robert Downey Jr. now you can't picture him any other way. I mean, Robert Downey is Tony Stark, and Tony Stark is Robert Downey.
For sure. And even the push to get Robert Downey, I mean, from what I understand, when he went in, preparation that he put in to nail this audition for this particular role, he did everything possible. And he was an extreme stretch for them because, they were concerned about, you got kind of a tainted past and, kind of a bit of a wild card to some degree, but yet the perfect fit. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody looking back would go, oh yeah, and somebody else would totally make a better Iron Man. No.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because now that Disney does own Marvel, I don't think this movie would have been made if you did it today.
Right.
With the people that it's with today.
Right.
It would have looked different. It would have felt different, and I don't know if it would have been as successful if they tried to do it now. Really.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a huge Robert Downey fan, and I think just even his story arc from being. I mean, I've been a fan since the Brat Pack. I mean, that was my era, the whole John Hughes era.
Yeah,
I grew up in that, and even to see his journey in the challenges that he went through, but yet to rise up out of that and to be, one of the highest paid actors now today.
So let's get away a little bit from Robert Downey and his acting, because
sorry, Robert,
because I think that's that's obvious.
Sure. Yeah,
that's the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's something that so many people now have seen, and it's obvious that it wasn't just a fluke.
Right.
He is good at what he does, and he's definitely carried this. He carried it to a point, and now I think it's being carried by other people.
Yeah.
And
he definitely earned the Godfather of the MCU title for sure.
Yeah. Being the Godfather of the MCU, you got to hand it off eventually.
Yeah.
And so the second movie that I want to talk about is Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yes. April 4th, 2014, we get a brand new MCU movie.
Yeah.
That totally pivots the entire feel.
Changes everything.
Yeah.
It's the thing that brought us to the style and the mood that the MCU is in today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Iron Man was a lot more playful, and it felt like the movie makers were having fun. we see a lot of these movies tackle these big cultural issues that we're facing usually at the time. And the interesting thing about that is that, there was this whole cultural issue that they tackled with, the government being corrupted. And, SHIELD had these, Hydra agents inside.
Yeah, the protectors weren't really the protectors anymore. And it really kind of...
And where it landed, and it's interesting because I don't think they, when making the film, anticipated kind of where the society would be at that time, and it resonated so well.
For sure.
With so many people.
It's kind of a terrifying movie in a lot of ways.
Absolutely is.
So, I mean, not in like the sense of a horror movie, at all, but
we're going to stumble on these major aircraft carriers that they're going to take out the entire world with,
Yeah.
World domination.
Right. So Winter Soldier is the first movie in the MCU directed by the Russo brothers.
Yes. Awesome.
And thank God for that.
Yep.
Not to say that anybody else couldn't have done it, but these guys are on another level.
For sure.
I mean, just the ideas they have, the way that they're able to execute things, it just seems so effortless with what they're doing. And I'm sure it's a lot of effort, but still it comes across just smooth as butter every single movie that they do. They have, of course, went on to go do Civil War, Infinity War, and they're going to do Avengers 4 coming out next year.
Yep.
Yet untitled. So Russo brothers started small, though. Small screen.
Yeah, TV.
Community.
Yep.
I watched Community. Did you watch Community at all?
I didn't get into Community.
Man, that was one of my favorite shows. It's probably one of my top 5 favorite shows ever.
Wow.
So just characters and the overall just design of the show is great, and there's a lot of people in the show. There's a lot of characters in the show. So for anybody that doesn't know, Community is a show that was on NBC for a few years and then had its demise on a thing called Yahoo Screen.
Oh, wow.
Which came and went faster than anybody could even count.
Mm-hmm.
And
what year was that? Do you recall?
2015, maybe.
Yeah,
because I think I was here when it happened, so in Phoenix. So I think it was 2015. But yeah, just a disaster. But that's not the point. the point is that Community was on for I think 6 seasons, and we're still waiting on that movie. But Community had to do with a bunch of people at a community college that were all different types, and this is actually where Donald Glover got probably his biggest start, which Donald Glover is obviously, he's Donald Glover. And
Childish Gambino.
Yeah. And then he was also in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes.
Community, though, I think it's 6 or 7 different personalities. Joel McHale's in there, Gillian Jacobs, who went on to do a great show that just wrapped up on Netflix called Love. And created by Dan Harmon, written a lot by him, and a really talented group of people. And the Russo brothers did probably some of the most memorable episodes that just happened to kind of include some action scenes in them as well. So Community was kind of known for its season finales in the first 2 seasons to be these elaborate like paintball episodes where the whole school is paintballing against each other, and the Russo brothers directed those. And so it's crazy for me to think that they went from directing 7 goofballs on a TV set to now they've got the biggest franchise in the universe. The director of photography for Winter Soldier was this guy named Trent Opalak. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I believe so.
So he is kind of known, at least in the industry, as being Neil Blomkamp's director of photography for all of his films, which I think those movies always look great. And it makes a lot of sense that they went to a guy that, the Neil Blomkamp movies are always kind of grounded in a gritty, although I hate the term gritty because now everything is gritty realism.
Right.
And then get
Or
into the
that
DC
whole-
universe, gritty realism, but it doesn't look real at all.
Yeah, because realism isn't gritty at all.
We'll talk about DC some other time. That's 4 episodes in
Well,
itself.
wasn't 300 that was kind of really the whole graphic novel gritty look where that kind of really got kicked
And
off.
Watchmen.
Well, yeah,
which
that's
was
true.
the same director.
Yeah.
So Trent Opelok, Neil Blomkamp's DP. So he brought, I think, a really interesting style to the MCU. So far, the art department in these films is just incredible.
It is.
I mean, these guys deserve everything you could ever throw at them, a heck of a lot more money than what they're getting.
Yeah.
But their character designs and the way that they're dressing people, it's just amazing. Every character looks lived in, and every location looks lived in. And I think that's something that I've really enjoyed with the MCU stuff, is it always feels like it is actually in New York, or it is actually in a part of Russia, or wherever they're filming it.
Yep.
And
and definitely the styles are they're edgy and work well on film, but definitely believable if you're walking in the street in that same place.
Yeah, for sure. It's something I've always appreciated about that they didn't just say, every single time, okay, let's just throw them in front of a green screen or a blue screen and let's just shoot some stuff. No, they went and they locked off, an entire 4 blocks of New York City to shoot some things. It's like, great, and I don't know if that's it's one of the issues that I have with the DC movies, at least, that I just can't connect with them the same way from a technical aspect. Mm-hmm. And that's because they never look like they're actually filmed anywhere.
Right.
They always feel like they just threw Superman in front of a green screen and a little chunk of cement and said, now do this.
Right, yeah.
It never feels lived in and real to me. And it's funny that that's the way that it is in the movies, because it's that way in the comics.
Yeah.
So Marvel has always been about the real guy, the average guy, the average American, if you will, because they're all written over here. They're the average person, the normal person that any of us could be, all of a sudden has an extraordinary ability.
Right.
And I always appreciated that, and so that's just a small shout out to the art direction, and that's costumes and set dressing and all those guys. They're just incredible.
And the location scout.
Oh, location scout.
The location guy that is like, who's the location guy? Nobody brings up the location guy, but the scouts that are setting up these locations are definitely on point. And I appreciate the comment, and even just what you're saying about how it's believable. It's in a setting that you're familiar with. It's in a you could walk out. I remember the first time when I saw, as a throwback, Back to the Future.
Yep.
In 1985, I walked out of the theater expecting to see, the car driving down the street, because it was shot in in a way that was like, hey, there's a real place.
Yeah.
That's like that. To your point with the location and feeling like it's real and there's a relatability, I think that Marvel has done an incredible job, even with the characters. Like, yeah, Tony Stark's bank account might not be relatable, but the things that he struggles with, the narcissism, the benevolence, just wrestling with pride and different things in his character that we all relate to. We all wrestle with at some point in our life.
Yeah, there's never a plot point where it's like, oh gosh, where am I gonna put my other 10 cars?
Right.
It's always on a more personal, mental level that anybody can really relate to, and so you do kind of get put in his shoes, even if he is a multi-billionaire and you're not.
Of course, when he did crash through the ceiling onto the Cobra, my heart sank a little bit. I'm like, not the Cobra.
It's okay.
Not
It's just
the
a kit.
Cobra.
It was just a kit. Don't worry
It was
about
a
it.
kit. Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
it still was
I know.
painful.
Or it might not have been. That was Iron Man 2. They had a lot of money by then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back to Winter Soldier, though. Trent Opelok, the DP, he went on to stay with the Russo brothers for the rest of their MCU days.
Yeah.
Civil War, Infinity War.
Yep. All the wars.
Yeah. So
just good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all they all have a very distinct look. Winter Soldier definitely looks different than Civil War.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier was a breath of fresh air because one, it was superheroes doing normal things. I'm not going across the country or the world, looking for a spy, but at the same time, it felt like a Bourne movie or a James Bond movie, but just happened to star Captain America. And I think that helped it a lot. And actually being separated maybe from the comic bookiness of Thor and Hulk, it actually was a good thing for it.
Yeah.
So the editor, though, 2 editors on this, Jeffrey Ford and Matthew Schmidt, these guys are all over the place. They've basically been in it since the beginning. Both worked on every single Avengers movie, every Captain America movie, and then Jeffrey Ford, for sure, maybe Matthew Schmidt, also edited Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so these guys have edited everything that you've seen in the last 8 years, basically, that's been a Marvel movie has been these guys and Dan Leventhal from Ant-Man and Spider-Man.
And I think that they've done such a great job with the use of humor. I think, you mentioned Thor earlier. The first 2 Thor movies, dark, too serious, and, in the as far as on the P&L sheet, landed flat.
Yeah.
Whereas Ragnarok totally out
180.
Yeah. I mean, and there was a lot more, with Tiki and coming on as a director and just.
Did you just call him Tiki?
Yeah, did I? Is it what's his first name?
Taika Waititi.
Well, yeah, I just merged it together like J-Lo, it's Tiki.
Oh my gosh. Anyways,
I mean, apparently I pronounce things wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Okay.
Like,
you want to get into this?
Do
All
I
right.
want to?
Do
No,
you want to? No, but we
necessarily.
are.
Okay, here it comes.
Who's the current Batman?
The current Batman is
The actor.
is Ben Affleck.
Okay. No, you didn't hear that wrong. The current Batman is Ben
Space.
Affleck.
Right. That's what I
Ben
said.
Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
But
because I say it too fast.
Erik here says it as one word, and then he loses an F.
No, the F's there. Ben
There's
Affleck.
2. Isn't there? Isn't there 2 F's?
Oh, this is funny. Yeah, we had this discussion the other
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Was it
there's 2
yesterday,
Fs.
day before?
I'm Googling it right now. Yeah, 2 F's. So it's Ben Affleck. That's what you're going to stick with?
Yeah. Unless Ben's going to correct us. I mean,
I'm going to correct you.
Yeah, okay.
It's Ben Affleck.
Okay, Ben Affleck.
Affleck.
Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
It
Say
just
like
sounds
the
like
duck.
an insurance commercial. I don't think he would appreciate that.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah. So, but okay. So who did the better Batman? Christian Bale or Ben Affleck?
Affleck. The better Bruce Wayne.
Okay. Okay. So are we separating Bruce and Batman?
Yes, you have to.
Okay.
I think you
all
have
right.
to. If you even get into this conversation, you have to.
Okay.
By the way, this is a tangent.
It is a tangent.
This is not on topic.
But it's geek related. It's movie related.
Okay, fine.
It's hero movie related.
Who's your best Bruce Wayne?
Okay, I definitely give it to Ben on that one. Ben does Bruce Wayne.
This can be anybody. Clooney.
Oh, anyone.
Kilmer.
Oh, yeah, no. Clooney did a really good Bruce Wayne. I like
Don't
Clooney.
go with Clooney. Seriously. All right, guys, that's been the first episode and the last episode. Yeah.
Okay, so who's your Bruce Wayne? Who's your best Bruce Wayne?
Man, okay. I think Bale does a really good Bruce Wayne. He especially in Batman Begins when he gets back, and I always think of the scene where he's not drunk, but he's pretending to be drunk with the 2 girls, and they're in the fountain.
Mm-hmm.
And they're waiting for the car to come in.
Yep.
That just screams like Bruce Wayne playboy
For sure.
to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was done properly in any other movie.
Right.
And
I would agree.
And I think that's a lot to say about Christopher Nolan giving the character time instead of just worrying about the next action piece. Because if you look at Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney, even Ben Affleck.
Did you just say Ben Affleck?
Did you?
No, I think that was you. See, it just rolls off the tongue much more.
It seems so weird to me. So weird to me. Anyways, Ben Affleck. I don't think that they're given enough time to be Bruce Wayne. And instead of writing a Batman movie, and Batman, that's Bruce Wayne and Batman. You can't just write a Batman movie. That's not what everybody wants to see.
Right.
People want to understand the character. They want to relate to the character. They want to feel the character. Nolan did that.
Yeah.
Nolan broke it down to this is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And then this is the fake Bruce Wayne
Yeah.
that he shows off to everybody else. And then this is Batman.
Yeah. Well, Nolan, I mean, I'm not surprised that you pointed to Christian Bale and the Chris Nolan partnership in that, because really the Nolan Batmans.
Yeah. How do you even compare him to anything else?
He crushed it.
Yeah.
He totally crushes it in those.
You know,
like I'll go back and watch those again.
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises gets a little bit of hate, but it's still an incredible film for a lot of reasons. It might not have been the perfect film that everybody thinks The Dark Knight is, but it's still it's an incredible trilogy that they haven't been able to recreate since.
Yeah,
and that I think Marvel, I might get some flack, but I don't know if they've had their Dark Knight yet. Well, okay, I take that back. I think maybe Infinity War might be their Dark Knight. And I'll get into that in a second as to why. I don't necessarily mean that Infinity War is a perfect film, but what I would say Infinity War succeeds at, where The Dark Knight succeeded at, is being a memorable 2.5 hours of your life that you go back and you think on.
Oh, for sure. People that weren't even MCU geeks or fans that went and saw Infinity War that I talked to. A nice segue to Infinity War, by the way.
I'm killing it.
You are killing these.
I'm killing this first episode.
Their minds were blown. Like the Russos, just to pull together all those personalities on one screen. To manage all those egos and the ego clashes with Tony Stark and Star-Lord and Doctor Strange, and you got a lot of ego going on in that,
for sure.
And which makes for a lot of great comedic moments as well. But if you haven't seen Infinity War, we're going to spoil it. We can spoil it now.
Yeah.
Like I always hesitate to spoil stuff.
We didn't really spoil Iron Man or Winter Soldier, but we're gonna spoil the heck out of Infinity War here in a second.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you haven't seen it by now, come on, it's on Blu-ray by now. So.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes where you can skip ahead to see what else we're gonna talk about.
Right, that's funny. But people's minds were blown that weren't huge fans that wanted to see this, because it was such. The culmination of the last 10 years, not just in the MCU story arc, but the culmination of the last 10 years in filmmaking period.
For sure.
Talking about technology, going back to the beginning, the technology that we have now with drones and all the different stabilizers and everything else that we have at our fingertips, as well as on the editing side and in post. And even just seeing some of the pictures and these sensor suits, right?
Right.
They're 3D mapping of it's bananas.
Yeah, and then with that too is you have these huge lighting achievements that have happened in the last 10 years.
Amazing.
LED has blown up. ARRI has fully adopted that. ARRI, however you want to say it. The lighting though has changed immensely.
Yeah.
So getting back into the technical side of it, we have LED everywhere now.
Right.
Digital Sputnik, ARRI.
Yeah.
Just an incredible amount.
And what is it? Astrostar,
Aerostar. And that's helium-filled LED, HMI. Like,
who would have thought of that 10 years ago?
Nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are killing it. And then so you have these ARRI sky panels, and they're LED. They're also RGB, so red, green, blue. They can be any color you need them to be. Mm-hmm. And so now you're filling color in the scene that you might not have gotten easily 10 years ago.
Right.
So you gotta light these Infinity Stones. Well, okay, let's bring in an actual green light to give off the hue of the time stone, and it's possible now.
Right.
Well, I mean, it was always possible, but it's a heck of a lot easier now.
Right. And it's hitting their budgets a lot easier now
Right.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a huge part of it. And then so your overhead's less, and you make more at the end. And which I don't know if Marvel needs to make any more money. They're probably set for a little while, but
Yeah. What was
Doesn't
what
hurt.
was the final gross point, at least to this point? It was like
domestic or
overall worldwide, it was like
almost
2 billion.
almost 3 billion.
Is it
or
3
something.
billion now?
It's, I don't
Oh,
think
with-
it's that high, but it's high.
Okay, so how many times did you see it
I saw it once
in the theater?
in the theater, and then I've seen it once at home. I know.
I'm shaking my
I
head
know.
right now.
But you know what? My brain's like a bear trap.
It is.
It
You're pulling
is.
out facts from like 10 years ago
I know.
that
I'm
are
trying.
spot on.
I'm just. It's. I can't remember my coworkers' last names, but I'll remember some gaffer on a movie from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just the way my brain works.
Yeah. I saw it 10 times in the theater. I spent the money.
You did do it.
I felt like it was appropriate. 10 years of the MCU. You got to see it 10
I
times.
actually did it.
And I did.
Wow.
It
One
was
for every
awesome.
year.
Yeah. Like the first 7 days, I saw it 6 times.
That's disgusting.
I went it was one, I think I missed the following Thursday, and I was like, oh.
Oh, you had an itch that you couldn't
Yeah,
scratch.
yeah. I'm
and
like,
you're going through
it just
withdrawal.
Yeah,
Oh,
it just didn't make
jeez.
sense.
Oh man. So we are 10 years now into this MCU. Thanos, however it is said differently
This
in
podcast
the movie.
has now become a, how do you pronounce these words?
Yeah, the Easy Pronunciation Podcast. So Infinity War, April 27th, 2018, 10 years of the MCU, directed by the Russo brothers again, edited again by Jeffrey Ford and Matthew Schmidt. The DP again was Trent Opalak.
Yeah, Trent, you are the man.
Dude, this movie is the best looking movie of this year. Hang on, wait a second. I'm sorry. Let me just make sure of something real quick.
All right, well, you're making sure of that. So you talked about what movies you would see leading up to Infinity War. And some of the advice I've given non-MCU fans was you have to see Iron Man. Iron Man kicks it off. You've got to go see that.
Yeah.
Then Avengers. Like I went to Avengers first because that's kind of the collection, so you kind of get the groundwork for.
You get the Mark Ruffalo
Yeah,
Hulk. You
yeah,
get
yeah.
thrown into it at least.
Yeah. Civil War, they got to see.
I would agree with you from a story standpoint.
Yeah. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for the non.
Yes.
The non.
For the non-diehards that
Yeah, the
haven't seen
non-geek
them all.
fan.
I mean, I think I still have my ticket stub like from Iron Man 1.
Do you
Like,
really?
I think I have them all.
Wow.
somewhere. I'll have to get those out.
That's
But
a whole nother level of
I
geek
know.
right
I
there.
keep them all.
I have to say I don't keep my stubs.
What?
I know.
Anyways.
Oh, and Black Panther. Black Panther, I think, because it sets the stage as far as, who Black Panther is, how he fits into the whole picture, and the fact that, half of the battle occurs in Wakanda. So, why a Wakanda becomes this
Right.
sanctuary that, Captain America goes for help and that type of thing. So I think those are the good. If somebody that wasn't a fan just needed to get up to speed on the story, that's what I've been recommending.
So let's talk real quick about the technical side of this. Avengers Infinity War, from just being an incredible amount of CGI in this movie.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it
What's
looks
CGI
incredible.
and what isn't? I mean, it's so good.
Yeah, 10 years ago, couldn't have done it the same
Mm-hmm.
way. Would have been Josh Brolin in a rubbery suit, probably.
Mm-hmm. And as yoked as he got, for Deadpool, he still wouldn't be Thanos size.
No one is.
Yeah.
So this movie made me a believer in the good of CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's used as kind of a cop out.
Uh-huh.
We don't want to do that, or we haven't really thought this through, so we'll just kind of CGI it later. But this movie, it's clear from the beginning. They were like, okay, this has to be here. It has to be done this way. We're going to block it correctly. We're going to do all this stuff. There's a scene on Thanos' home planet, a Titan, where he brings in the moon. He breaks up this moon.
Oh, yeah.
With the gauntlet.
Right. Throws the moon at
Throws
Tony
the
Stark.
moon at Tony Stark. And just stuff is just getting destroyed all around him. And then Spider-Man in his what's that suit called? I can't.
Yeah, the Iron Spider suit.
The Iron Spider suit. Thank you. He's just swinging everywhere. He's grabbing
Nebula and Mantis and Drax
and everything, and just swinging through all this stuff, and the camera's just going with you, and it feels like a ride.
Totally does.
And I saw it in a large format screen with 20.7 surround sound or whatever it was, and it's just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm just lit up like a kid, and it was so much fun. I loved that scene, and it's to me, it was a huge achievement in just CGI blocking, because the whole thing's fake.
Yeah.
None of that was real.
Right.
But the character, Tom Holland, is acting throughout it.
Yep.
I'm sure they were actually having him swing around on set to get some actual good dialogue, that sounded like he was doing it.
Mm-hmm. Put him on a wire.
Yeah,
Yep.
Put him on a wire and did some stuff with it. And it's the whole thing is sold so perfectly. And I cannot recommend this movie enough as just the staple of what CGI heavy movies should be.
Yeah.
Polar opposite. The comparison that everyone brings up lately is the Justice League movie.
Oh.
Which is just a mess of CGI throughout the whole movie.
Oh, you mean those other Avengers?
Other Avengers, yeah. Avengers Team D.
Yeah. You went all the way to D. I was going to say the B team.
Well, I'll give him a little bit of credit. I like Ben Affleck, so yeah.
See, I told you.
It's not going to happen. Go try to make it happen.
But, okay, so DC has made some good films. When there was the Nolan Batmans.
Sure.
And Wonder Woman.
Yeah. I don't want to get into this, though.
Yeah. That's another podcast for another day.
It's been beaten to death by everybody out there.
But the CGI point. The CGI point with the Justice League.
Is that Justice League is kind of using it to create whatever they need to for whatever situation they got stuck in. Infinity War feels like it was thought out from the beginning, and they knew where they wanted this stuff to go, and they knew what they wanted it to look like. I mean, like the scene that is, it's probably 98% CGI. Josh Brolin, as Thanos, is talking, and he uses his reality stone to wipe away his background and show what Titan used to look like before it was destroyed.
Yeah, that was cool. And then
and
the
he's
dialogue
walking
with
as
Dr.
he's
Strange.
talking, and he's talking to Strange at the same time. All of that. There's so many little things like that you just you might not notice it immediately, but your brain notices it, and you're like, that's just done well.
Right. The attention to detail was amazing. And but here's the other thing is that making the big thing, like comparing Justice League, and I think where they're failing is that, and where MCU is winning is that they take the time to develop the characters. They take the time for the audience to develop a relationship with the characters. Yeah. Like,
we've had 6 movies between Captain America and Iron Man before we even got to the team,
exactly.
this big of a team up.
Exactly. And I think where Warner and DC are missing is that they're trying to take shortcuts. They're trying to get there faster. They feel like, man, we're losing. We've lost a lot of ground. They could have been doing the exact same thing with, Hollywood was starved for a new story 15 years ago. They're like, let's reboot this, let's reboot that. And we still see reboots today. But the untapped stories of the comic books that so many people grew up with, baby boomers and later, is...
You have 100 years of comics.
Yeah, you've got 100 years of storyline to pull from. I mean, it was a wealth of material that hasn't been done yet. And I think MCU and the decisions that have been pulled in, from the different directors, from editing, from DPs, they've just been well thought out. They've been well developed over a long period of time.
For sure.
And with the culmination of, we're talking 10 years. 10 years in the movie world is forever.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh my God.
Think of it if they broke it down into a TV series. 10 years, that's 10 seasons.
Yeah, that's Friends.
Right.
The entire start to finish of Friends.
I wonder if that's how, they pitched it originally. Was, hey, we're going to do a TV series, but you're going to give us $200 million to make each episode. And we're only going to release 2 every year. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. And then they just went into it. Yep. And it worked. Yeah. And I think that is, we're getting into a little bit, but the DC problem is they wanted all of the glory and none of the work. And they were right in a lot of ways. I mean, Batman vs. Superman, it made a lot of money, but I feel like if it would have been earned, they would have made more.
Right.
You know, start with that Wonder Woman movie. Start with that Wonder Woman movie 8 years ago.
Right.
You didn't do it though.
Right.
You know, you started with Batman versus Superman.
Right.
Basically. And you had Man of Steel, which I think is one of the best looking movies of, you know, the last few years. But story wise wasn't great. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. The edit was kind of all over the place. Mm-hmm. But
and the problem too is you got to overcome all the now there's an expectation.
Yeah.
Right. The audience is you've been all over the place. You know, Tim Burton Batman to
you don't have a strong history of your character here.
Yeah, I mean
already. Yeah.
I mean and I think MCU is using the same actors for the same characters over this entire period.
Right.
Which they realized the value, and I'm sure their rates had gone up. I'm sure Robert Downey Jr.'s contract for Infinity War was a lot more than it was for Iron Man 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it's the long game and not taking those shortcuts. So, you know, that audience expectation is a huge thing now that they've got to overcome. Yeah. Can they do it? Yes, but they're behind a ball for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So back to Infinity War, what is a standout scene to you?
Man, standout scene.
If you had to just pick one.
If I just had to pick one scene, well, probably the end scene where after the snap. If
talking Thanos' home planet or the
well, yeah, because there's multiple scenes, but it's
the dusting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, where everybody vaporizes into.
Spoiler alerts! Everybody dies.
Yeah.
Except for your OG Avengers, that's pretty much all that's left.
Yeah. But if I'm just gonna pick one scene, I had to separate it from most memorable. Most memorable is Black Panther dying.
Really?
Black Panther was the biggest shock to me because Black Panther vaporizes before Spider-Man vaporizes.
So here's what I think happened there is I don't think they realized Black Panther was going to be as successful as it was,
and they filmed it
already
before.
Had those scenes done.
Yeah, and they filmed it
like,
before.
Oh crap! Black Panther just made $1 billion.
Right, yeah, and we just
killed them off.
Yeah,
we need to announce 2 that way people don't.
So do they? Well, I think Avengers 2 or Infinity War 2, Endgame, whatever it's going to be called, it happens before the next Black Panther.
Yeah.
But I know Spider-Man Far From Home releases before, so that's going to be interesting. I think the most emotional scene. So I'm going to break this up in a few different ways.
Yeah, this is cheating. By the way.
It's cheating. Most emotional scene for me, obviously, Spider-Man, Iron Man. I mean, they developed this kind of like father-son type of relationship. And
why do you think Spider-Man was the last to go?
I'm not sure, but it was the most emotional. Like watching Black Panther vaporize was a shock. Again, coming off a Black Panther movie and how well that did, and just the resonation of that character and that whole. I mean, Ryan Coogler blew it out of the water.
Oh man, he's great. Yeah.
But that was the biggest shock to me. But the biggest emotional pull was when Spider-Man's, and it took him longer to vaporize. I don't know if it was the Iron Spider suit
I have a theory, and I don't know if I've heard it somewhere else yet, but I'm pretty sure it's because he wasn't vaporizing yet, but his spidey sense could feel it happening before. So he vaporized when he vaporized.
Yeah, because it was like, what's happening?
He could already feel it coming because of his spidey sense tingling or whatever. Yeah. I think that's my personal theory. I don't know if anybody's confirmed that or anything, but that's my headcanon at least.
Yeah, I like it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
It made sense to me.
That makes sense.
Especially since they introduced Spidey Sense in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
I thought maybe there was a tie-in there.
Yeah, I like that. But if I was going to pick one scene, it would probably be when Iron Man's fighting Thanos on Titan.
And he's just getting his butt kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like he brings it,
Oh, yeah.
like when he comes,
Like everything
like,
he's learned over the last,
throw another moon at me and I'm going to lose it. Like you already lost it, Tony. Like, come on, you're in the game. And I mean, he got some good licks in, but and Thanos is like, wow, all that just for a scratch, and then obviously we know what happened there. But I think just the respect that Thanos had for Stark and that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, that's right. I mean, Tony Stark's my favorite.
I know that there's a big chunk of the end scene where people are disappearing. There is no sound. All you hear is kind of the city. There's a certain scene I'm referring to here. You hear the city, cars crash, a couple characters get out of their car and they witness a helicopter spinning out of control, runs right into a building, blows up. All you're hearing is just the chaos of the world of missing half of its population in an instant. And the guy that kicked it all off in Iron Man 1, Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury,
yeah, has a modified Motorola pager.
Straight 90s.
Straight up.
Straight 90s, but clearly it's been adapted for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something.
Yeah, there's some kind of mods to it.
There's some weirdo mods to it. So at the end, he pulls out his pager. Pages Captain Marvel. That's the next MCU Marvel movie coming out. We do have Venom next month. I think it's next month.
October.
October.
Yep.
I'm not excited for that at all. I think it's going to be a steamy pile of crap.
Why? Because Sony's doing it?
Because Sony's doing it, and Marvel doesn't have their hand in it at all. And I
like Tom Hardy though. I really like Tom Hardy.
What is that accent?
I don't know.
What is that
but
voice?
I like Tom Hardy.
The writing. Anyways, we'll have an episode on it. I'll have to unfortunately see it for this podcast. But the next MCU movie, because that Venom is not in the same universe. It's in some weird Sony alternate universe. Thank goodness.
For now.
Until
Disney buys Sony.
Well, I'd be fine with that Infinity Gem. Captain Marvel, though.
Captain Marvel.
That's where we're at next.
Yep.
That's the next MCU.
Which she just donned the cover of EW magazine.
Yep, Entertainment Weekly just had her. I'm excited for this.
I am too.
I don't know a whole lot about Captain Marvel. I looked into it a little bit, but then I decided I don't want to spoil it. Pretty excited about this though. From what I've read, what I've seen so far, Ronan is coming back from Guardians Galaxy Volume 1. Kree.
Right. Yeah.
And she is part Kree.
Right.
But I'm excited for this. I like the actors. I like the stuff that I've seen so far. The Entertainment Weekly stuff looked pretty cool, different. Definitely sticking with more of a Guardians Ragnarok vibe, it looks like, with color.
Yep.
Yeah, man, it looks cool. So I'm excited for that. That being the next MCU movie coming out. And then, of course, right after that is Homecoming.
Yep.
I think 2 months later.
Far from home.
Far from home, sorry.
Far from home apparently is in London. London is far from home.
Far from home. Spider-Man 2 London Boogaloo.
Right. And we've seen leaks of Samuel L. Jackson's Instagram account as well as Tom Holland. So,
those guys can't keep anything under wraps. Tom Holland's the worst. But he's the best.
It's kind of, it's tongue in cheek. It's kind of fun, you know.
I think now they just give him scripts.
They give him stuff on purpose.
They're gonna start handing him like scripts that were written like the 80s for Spider-Man, and he's not gonna have any idea. Yeah, it's awesome. Gonna be great.
It's awesome.
So then after Far From Home, Infinity War 2, Avengers 4, Avengers
the end game,
however they're gonna call it.
I like the end game,
and I think we're gonna lose our OG Avengers.
I think so too.
I think that's going to be it. But we'll get into a predictions episode when we get closer to that.
Yeah.
And that's it pretty much for the MCU. So the next big thing coming out,
well,
comic book nerd wise, would
be
Predator
this week.
Yeah.
Got to go.
You hate Predator.
I hate Predator. I totally hate Predator.
I'm so
I
excited.
like the first one. I like the first one.
Oh man,
first one was good. Loved the action, but it was to me when I saw it, it was a mindless action flick.
There's more to it than
there
that.
There is more to it.
There's more to it,
and I didn't know that. I'm willing to
admit
there's more there.
Yeah.
And I do like the cast of this new one.
Yes. We're going to watch Predator.
Yes, we are.
Predator 2.
Okay.
Predators.
Okay.
And then we're going to go see The Predator. And then we're going to talk about it next week.
All right.
So you're going to want to make sure and be here for that because Eric's going to hate it.
I'm going to hate every minute of it.
And I'm going to love every second. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
Anyways, thank you guys. This has been the Easy Podcast. We'll see you next week. We're talking about The Predator. Take it easy.
All right. Out. Peace out. Did I just say peace out? Is there a better way to close that? Is there a better, like deuces? We out. You're going to leave that in there, aren't you?